Tonight's Sydney Alliance Bridging Sydney Assembly starts with a welcome to country by Uncle Alan Madden, a Gadigal elder of the Aurora Nation.
Thank you. Oh, bugger. Thank you. Once again, my name is Alan Madden, Gadigal elder. First of all, two apologies for the terrible weather we're having outside at the moment. Sorry. And not being able to welcome you to my country in my language, as we're forbidden to talk our language a long time ago. I'd like to acknowledge our Aboriginal elders, past and present, and pay my respects. And to all our Aboriginal and Islander brothers and sisters here tonight, welcome to Gadigal. No matter where you've come from, what Aboriginal or island nation, once again, welcome to Gadigal land, Aboriginal land. And to all our non-Indigenous brothers and sisters here tonight, a very warm and sincere welcome to you, to Gadigal. No matter where you've come from, whether it be across the seas, across the state or across town, once again a very warm and sincere welcome to you, to Gadigal. As I've mentioned many times before, was, is and always will be Aboriginal land. Only three things shorter than that: coming, taxation and going. It's an honour and a pleasure to be here tonight to welcome one and all to Gadigal. Gadigal is one of 29 clans of the Eora Nation. The Eora Nation is bounded by the Hawkesbury River to the north, Nepean to the west, and Georges River to the south. And in between those three mighty rivers is the Eora Nation. And in that nation there are 29 clans. And the clan's land we're on tonight is Gadigal. On behalf of members of the Metropolitan and Local Aboriginal Land Council and of the Gadigal mob, once again a very warm and sincere welcome to you, to Gadigal. There's an old saying out there, and I think it's very appropriate for you mob here tonight. You fellas have heard it 1,000 times before. They say where there's a will, there's relatives. So once again, on behalf of Land Council and of the Gadigal mob, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Just stay there for a second. Uncle Alan, we thank you for your welcome. We acknowledge the sufferings of your people. We celebrate with you the renewal of your culture. And on your land, we join with you in the pursuit of justice.
You don't know me, but I'm your brother. I was raised here in this living hell. You don't know my kind in your world. Fairly soon the time will tell. You telling me the things you're gonna do for me. I ain't blind and I don't like what I think I see.
Taking it to the streets.
And now I'm taking it.
Taking it to the streets.
And now I'm taking it.
Taking it to the streets.
Oh, now I'm taking it.
Taking it to the streets.
Oh. my brother. You will find him everywhere. Wherever people live together, tied in poverty's despair. You telling me the things you're gonna do for me. Oh, and I ain't blind and I don't like what I think I see.
Taking it to the streets.
And now I'm taking it.
Taking it to the streets.
Oh, now I'm taking it, yeah. Oh, now I'm taking it. Yeah. And now I'm taking it. Oh, now I'm taking it. Yeah. Taking it to the streets.
I'm Reverend Gary Durken of the Uniting Church Synod of New South Wales and the ACT.
And I'm Anita Tang of Cancer Council New South Wales, and we are your co-chairs for tonight. I'm here tonight because my parents chose to settle in a new country to give us children opportunities that were not available in their homeland. It's meant that I've had a life of privilege, but I know that not everybody has my life, and that makes me angry.
I'm here tonight because with 8 grandchildren, I have much to be happy for. But deep down I grieve because of the effect on people of unjust social systems. For me, just as Jesus of Nazareth opposed those systems, so must I.
I'm here tonight because my work at Cancer Council tells me that when citizens speak out, governments can respond. Our grassroots movement helped to make sure that the New South Wales Government put cigarettes out of sight in all shops in New South Wales, despite organised tobacco industry resistance. It was people like us here tonight who spoke out on things that we care about.
I'm here tonight because the church at its best works besides those doing it tough. The Uniting Church and its community services have found that with respectful relationships and support, families that were falling apart can harness their own strengths for survival and begin to flourish.
And I, like you, we're all here tonight because we all want to live in a city where citizens' voices carry equal weight, strong weight in government decision-making. The period leading up to March 2015 is a key time to raise our voices, and tonight we launch our campaign to engage citizens and decision-makers up to the state election and beyond.
Tonight we will be successful if we go from this place clear about the campaign ahead and committed to participating in table talks, local assemblies and delegations to decision makers. Are you ready? Yeah! Anita, why the theme Bridging Sydney?
So Gary, bridges enable people to connect more easily and have opportunities that were not possible before. And as we know, the Sydney Alliance is all about building connections and expanding opportunities.
The Harbour Bridge was opened in 1932. The 82nd anniversary of its opening was 1 week ago tonight. Preparation began in 1912 and construction began 14 years later. That construction took a further 6 years.
And there's a lesson here. Things worthwhile take a long time to build, and it's like that for the Alliance. There are a few years of preparation before our founding assembly in 2011, and the strength of the Alliance will take years to mature, but we are well on our way. So let's remind ourselves of where we came from. Please welcome Sydney Alliance board member Judith Cader to recap our story.
Good evening. What a sight, a full town hall. My name is Judith Cader. I'm the Assistant Secretary of the New South Wales Nurses and Midwives Association, and I am a board member of the Sydney Alliance. I've been a registered nurse and midwife for more than 40 years. I'm also a wife and a mother to 3 sons and 2 daughter-in-laws, and I live in Riverwood. Welcome. We are the Sydney Alliance. For those of you who are new to the Alliance, let me introduce you. The Sydney Alliance brings together diverse organisations to advance the common good and achieve a fair, just and sustainable city. We do this by providing opportunities for everyday people to have a say in decisions that affect them, their families, and everyone working and living in Sydney. We are a non-party political organisation. Our goal is to rebuild Sydney in a way that allows its citizens to feel a sense of belonging. In 2008, my union was approached to be a founding partner in this organisation to be called Sydney Alliance, that was about giving its people a say in how our city should function. It came at a time when I was particularly frustrated at the number of things going on around me that I didn't have any input into. I remember screaming at the TV or the radio when new announcements were made, and I'd think, well, nobody bothered to ask me what I think. Then came the realisation that I was not on my own and that being part of a civil society organisation might just be the answer. We worked hard to bring organisations together, and what a great night it was in 2011, right here in this town hall, when we had our founding assembly, and I'm sure a number of you here tonight were also here for that event. We spent the next 2 years finding our feet, building power in local suburbs, researching, trying our hand at campaigns, and now we are ready to raise our voices in the upcoming New South Wales election. Transport in Sydney is a hot-button issue for Alliance members, and one of my most memorable experiences came about while participating in some Alliance training where all the participants travelled by public transport to an Alliance event in Penrith. It was a little confronting for me as a person who rarely uses public transport in this city. I witnessed unpleasantness and antisocial behaviour on the train that night, and it made me think about the difficulties other people have to face in my city. For me, it was just an exercise that night, but for those using our public system on a daily basis, how many times do they see what I saw? We must have a better system. As a union leader who always has been committed to social justice, I was suddenly meeting people like Anita from the Cancer Council and Gary from the Uniting Church, and many others, all of whom shared my values and a vision for a better Sydney. So what next for this alliance? The next phase of our work is the recognition phase. It is about recognising the power of the alliance. It's about gaining recognition for those who from those who already have power. It's when people like our Premier, the Minister for Transport, or other corporate leaders recognise that it is in their interests to work with us. It is about when others see our ability to bring people together, to set aside our differences and to work on commonalities is a remarkable strength. It's about being seen as the constructive and strong leaders that we are. The Sydney Alliance is about what is right for the people of Sydney. Elected officials must always be accountable to their constituency, not the other way around. Ultimately, public recognition is recognising that we, the people who live in our suburbs, commute on our roads and trains, who go to our schools and hospitals, are taken seriously in the decisions about how to run our city. It's also about recognising ourselves, recognising that this is my alliance, it's your alliance, it's our alliance. We are the ones who must do the work if we are to win. We know so many Sydney-siders who are not happy with the current state of play, so if not us, who will change this city? The Alliance teaches that you never do for others what they can do for themselves. To lead this alliance, we need to learn how to work together differently. We need to learn how to organise in our own communities around the things we want to see change and make this city a better place to live. The Sydney Alliance is a gift to all of us who wish to see a fair and just Sydney. We are now ready to do the work required, and I urge each and every one of you to play your part with vigour in ensuring that the work done so far brings us to a place where those seeking election next year understand that we, the Sydney Alliance, is the voice for a fair and just Sydney.
Before we arrived here tonight, there has been 12 months of listening to our members for the problems that beset Sydney. Research by teams on those problems, talking to experts, defining issues, and arriving at solutions. Tonight, we announce those solutions. These solutions are around jobs for young people, transport, and affordable housing. Each of the presentations that you're going to see very shortly will include a first-hand account of the problems, evidence for the solution, and the ask that we'll be putting to the state government. There are 3 parts to our campaign, but it is one campaign. Welcome, Working Start.
Hi, my name is Shane Carney, and I'm from Glebe Youth Service. If I get a good job, it would change my life, but a good job feels very out of reach. I live with my dad in Glebe. He hasn't worked since I was born. We used to live in Byron Bay, but in high school we moved to the city. We moved around a lot, and it was pretty hard for me to keep introducing myself at new schools. My dad has a serious illness that forces him to collect things and bring them in our house. That makes life hard for him and extra hard for me. I've had a few good jobs in the past. I worked in a fruit shop for 18 months and as a waiter for 6 months. But the shops closed and the jobs ended. Since then, I've had casual work, but nothing has lasted longer than a month. I've tried on my own to get work, but I don't have anyone to help me. My dad can't help. I don't have friends who run a shop or have their own businesses. It's very hard to feel positive. Through the Glebe Youth Service and the Sydney Alliance, I've learned that there is something that can help, because it's not just about getting a job. Sometimes it's about fixing a problem when it comes up. The last job I got, I didn't know what I needed and I had no one to ask. I got sick and took a few days off. When I went back, the boss told me the job was gone. But in the last year, there has been some hope. 2 of my friends from Glebe, Dwayne and Malcolm, have got jobs at Harold Park with Mirvac, who realised the potential and contributed to the Glebe community. They have both said that having that job has changed their lives. I know an opportunity like that could change my life as well, but I can't do it on my own. I would like to have someone there who could help me when things go wrong. For me, a job isn't just about having something to do, it's about changing my life and following the right path. And maybe in time I can help other people just like me. I want to work. It means more to me than you know.
My name is Shona Tarrant. My name is Shona Tarrant and I work at Harris Farm Markets. Personally, I'm inspired by a girl I call Shelley. She started working for us when she was 15 years old, and by the time she was 24, she had 5 children. Every day, she juggles childcare, school, sleepless nights, and she still manages to get up, come to work and perform. When I asked her why she pushed so hard, she said simply, "I never saw anyone in my family work, and I want a different life for my kids." She does it all on her own. I'm here to quickly share why Working Start is not only important to people like Shannon, but also important to business. We work with many agencies to provide employment pathways, not only out of a sense of social justice, but because there is mutual benefit. I lead the HR team, and my role is to find, develop and keep employees. Everyone talks about a war for talent in Australia, and yet we can't even access 100% of the available talent pool because they're hidden behind barriers of disadvantage, like Shannon. There are 2 things that make it difficult. Firstly, the sheer volume of agencies active in this area. It takes energy to simply maintain relationships, let alone work effectively with the different agencies. And the second is the lack of ongoing support for us and our future employees in their transition to work. Providing support doesn't have to be complicated. When I worked in apprentice development many years ago, I knew the students, I knew their guardians, I knew their TAFE teachers, and if we had problems, we sorted it out over a cup of tea. It was unsophisticated, but it worked. Companies like mine need help to help people like Shannon and Shelley. That's why we're interested in the employment support workers.
Good evening. My name is Kieran Kevins and I work at Glebe Youth Service. For the past 15 years I've been working in communities where young people face significant disadvantage. The past 7 of those years have been here in the inner Sydney. At Glebe Youth Service we provide a range of programs and services in partnership with young people to support them and assist them through what can be the turbulent years of adolescence. Our vision is to see young people achieve their goals, to contribute to their community and to reach their full potential. When I listen to Shannon and many others like him, I'm acutely aware of the incredible resilience and of the wellspring of untapped potential. When Shannon gets knocked down, he gets up again and again. And I know this from close personal experience. Shannon and others like him want the opportunities many of us take for granted. The chance to get a job that lasts, and even maybe a pathway to a career. We have a solution, but that solution needs resourcing. A dedicated employment support worker who is based in communities, a person who not only supports Shannon but works with employers. This model has proven to be effective, and I believe it is the missing piece of the youth unemployment puzzle. Young lives deserve a chance, they deserve our support. Let's give Shannon and others like him the chance to get a job and the ongoing support to turn that job into a career. Thank you.
My name is Monique Perusco and I'm the State Manager of Good Beginnings Australia. We work with children and their parents in communities that are vulnerable. My job is incredibly important to me. Aside from being a mother, it's how I define myself. It's how I gain self-esteem, and it drives me. In the world as it should be, the young Aboriginal people in Glebe or the Sudanese community in Blacktown or Asian migrant women would be able to find and develop in work that they love and enjoy. This is the world as it should be. Unfortunately, the world as it is very different. You've heard Shona from Harris Farm and Kieran speak about the challenges that people face. The Sydney Alliance has had thousands of conversations across Sydney, and we've heard a clear message that young people, particularly from disadvantaged or migrant backgrounds, feel excluded from the opportunities of Sydney. They want work that gives them independence and meaning. We have an innovation, and we're calling it Working Start. It's about employment support workers as the missing piece in the journey towards employment in disadvantaged communities. Mirvac is providing excellent jobs in Glebe, and we have other large corporations who want to work with us. It's working, but we need resources in Glebe and to extend it to other communities in Sydney. And that's why we're asking Minister Dominello to commit to funding a pilot of the employment support worker to work in Glebe and surrounding communities for 3 years at a cost of approximately $150,000. Contribute funding to an evaluation and facilitate a cross-portfolio expansion of this innovation so the role can be expanded. We have corporations at the table. We have people who want to work with us. We have the solution. We now need the New South Wales Government to join us.
My name is Serena Falston and I work at Cancer Council New South Wales.
All right, and my name is Kurt Iverson. I'm an Associate Professor of Urban Geography, Bachelor's at Sydney Uni, and a member of the National Tertiary Education Union.
So how are you getting home from the Assembly tonight? For some of you it'll be quite easy. You'll head downstairs to the train station below, you'll jump on a train that'll come relatively quickly, and you'll get off at a station that's well lit, it's staffed, it's accessible, and you'll make your way home. But for some of you, you've probably put a bit of thought into how you're going to get home tonight. You may not live near a train station. Or maybe you do, but it's poorly lit, it's not staffed, and you struggle to climb the steps from the platform. Or maybe your local buses don't run after 7 p.m. at night.
So transport enables everything we do. Work, education, worship, recreation, you name it. And that's why the Sydney Alliance believes that Sydney needs a better public transport network. Yes. Right. Now, in my job, I see the impacts of poor public transport every day. There are just too many students in my classes whose access to education is impacted by the lack of affordable and frequent public transport in their part of town. Now, sometimes fixing public transport in Sydney seems just too difficult. At every election, major parties make promises about multi-billion-dollar projects that will be completed years into the future if we're lucky. We've got to make this election different.
So we've identified 3 transport solutions that could be delivered cost-effectively and sooner rather than later. They do this by making use of the infrastructure that we already have. Combined, they would make a huge difference to the lives of millions of people.
So, our first ask then is about making the airport more accessible by public transport. Yes! So look, we already have a fantastic train line to the airport, but only 15% of people who travel to the airport use it because it's way too expensive. In fact, as you know, it's cheaper to get to the Blue Mountains than it is to get to the airport from Town Hall on the train. And that's just crazy. But it has a simple solution. So we're asking the Premier to remove the extra fees that are charged for people using the airport train stations to make public transport more affordable for all.
Our second ask is about creating a park and ride alternative to being stuck in the traffic on Parramatta Road. Thousands of people travelling between the West and the CBD spend hours a day in that traffic, or scramble for limited parking spots at train stations like Granville and Strathfield. So what can be done about that? Well, there's a place where the railway line to Olympic Park crosses over both the M4 motorway and Parramatta Road. At this spot, there used to be a little train station called Pipita. Currently, there is a car park, and that sits empty for most of the week. We think that there should be a train station right there with a car park and commuter facilities for people travelling to and from the city. Express trains could run from this station to Strathfield and Central from the end of the M4 in less than 20 minutes, which is much faster than they could drive in peak hour. So we're asking the Minister for Transport to commission a public feasibility study into the construction of a park and ride interchange where the M4 meets Parramatta Road to enable an express train service from there to Central Station. It's quite simple.
All right. So, Transport ask number 3 is about the accessibility of train stations. Now, there are 175 train stations across metropolitan Sydney, but only 96 of them are fully accessible to people in wheelchairs, on crutches, pushing prams, carrying kids, or carrying bikes. Now, you can't open a shop or a restaurant in this city these days that's not wheelchair accessible, but it's 2014 and more than a third of our public train stations don't meet that standard. Makes me want to thump. So while the New South Wales Government does have a program of access improvements underway, it's falling behind in meeting its legal requirements to make all stations accessible. So we'd like to know what's being done to get things back on track, including installing a lift at Arncliffe Station, where the community, as we've seen, is crying out for one. And we'd also like the Minister for Transport to make public the process that her department is using to determine which stations are upgraded first. And most importantly, we asked the Minister for Transport to ensure that all train stations in metropolitan Sydney are fully accessible by 2020.
So that's our 3 campaign issues for the 2015 election. Now, you might be sitting there now thinking to yourself, well, they're all really nice ideas, Serena, but they're never going to happen. Well, take a look around you. You're in this hall with fellow travellers and commuters, young and old, from all across Sydney. You're in this hall with the leaders of business and civil society who know how the infrastructure is crucial to unlocking the potential of this city.
All right, and I can also see my friends from the Rail, Tram and Bus Union down the back of the hall there. They're a big crew here tonight. You're also in this hall tonight with the hard-working people who staff the stations, who operate the trains and buses, whose union is deeply committed to making our public transport network the best that it can be. So let's put our combined power and passion to work and make these things happen. If we act together, it's not too hard. Better public transport for Sydney is achievable right now. Thank you very much.
My name is Jesse. I'm 22 years of age, and I live in DY. I became homeless at 20. I grew up in a house in Narrabeen with my mum, my nana, and my papa. My mother was a secretary at a mobile security company. My grandparents took care of me when mum was working. I knew we weren't wealthy, but we got by. I grew up knowing that brand names were dirty words. It was all no frills in our house. We moved around a few times, but the Northern Beaches has always been my home. I remember when I was 5, nothing meant more to me than getting a Tamagotchi. It was the first time I'd heard the word fad. It was made very clear to me that we didn't have the money for fads. I remember spending a lot of my time reading instead. I remember chats in the kitchen with Mum about the headlines on the ABC News soon became animated discussions about politics, ethics, and the possibilities of life. I was happy. When I was 17, Mum found a new partner. I put my trust in him. His counteroffer was arguments in public places, so he and I never really got along. Those conversations in the kitchen happened less frequently. She began spending weekends away from my little brother and I. Eventually, absence became the rule rather than the exception. Slowly, I realized the harrowing truth. My mother had chosen him over me. Upon me descended a painful realization, a painful moment of clarity. There was nothing I could do to halt the dissolution of my family. The home I'd grown up in was changing. I was 19 when the problems with her partner escalated into a physical confrontation. Mum and I were in the kitchen. I'd been trying to tell her I was trying hard to tolerate her partner because I wanted her to be happy, but that it was beginning to take its toll on me. Then, he came home. I felt that sinking feeling, part fear and part resignation. I knew everything from the last 2 years was going to come to a head. And in a single argument, everything I'd known and felt about my home was smashed to pieces. This gruff 50-year-old man was standing between me and Mum. "This isn't your home," he said. "This is your mother's home." So I knew I no longer had a home. If I was to be there, if I was to continue there, I couldn't be me. My right to have some semblance of control over the house in which I lived was non-existent. A year later, we were served with an eviction notice. Small wonder. I'm not sure we'd even left before the house was back on the market, rent jacked up $100 or so. I was faced with a decision to move into a house with my mother and her partner and leave the community I'd lived in my whole life, the place I felt was home, or to try and figure things out on my own. Now, this was not the simple question of a 20-year-old moving out of home. My social anxiety prevented me from pursuing employment. Because of my eyesight, I'd been told that I'd never be able to drive. I'd heard so much of what my problems would stop me from doing that I felt like I'd never be able to lead a normal life. I was severely depressed. I felt that I would never be able to develop the skills to get a real job. I looked at the decision before me with a sense of despair and hopelessness. I felt like my crisis had a third solution. It hurts to think about those days because I know that if I hadn't been able to find housing, that I might have taken my own life. I feel the Burdekin Association might be part of the reason I'm with you today. My placement in housing, having somewhere to live independently, has helped me to find my feet. Having a home, this freedom to have my own responsibilities, allows me to have a greater sense of control over my life. I finally had a home again. Home is a shelter in a storm. Home is an oasis in a desert. Home is a glimpse of the afternoon sun after you've been working down the mines. Home is a moment of reprieve in a lifetime of worry. Home is the only place where nothing else matters because you are safe. Home is the last bastion of free will. Home does everything that running away couldn't accomplish. My home is the launch pad and I am the lunar lander. With a little imagination, my home is whatever I want it to be. It's my home. Everyone deserves a home.
Good evening. My name is Rabbi Mendel Castell, CEO of Jewish House, a crisis response and intervention center in Bondi. We've all heard Jesse's story. What a brave young man who's come through and pulled his life together. For many, it is not as simple as that. We see this every single day. Housing is a serious issue. In the last couple of weeks, we launched Project 2500 with a report in Parliament, a program to help 2,500 homeless people across the city and the eastern suburbs over the next 3 years. There are some very interesting findings in this report. From 2006 to 2011, there has been an increase of 17% in the homeless. 26% more sleeping rough in Sydney. Tonight, in this city, there will be nearly 350 people sleeping rough, and nearly 1 in 200 Australians experience homelessness. The report shows that if we spend $6 million on this particular project, we would save New South Wales $240 million. For every dollar spent, we could save nearly 40. In their national study in 2013, the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute calculates the average cost of a person experiencing homelessness is $30,000 per year. A single man who is homeless costs New South Wales over $1 million over his lifetime. This is a false economy. Recently, I learned, while speaking to a homeless couple at Central Station that we took back to Jewish House only a week or so ago, that being homeless freezes you. You go into survival mode. All they could think about was their patch and where they were going to sleep that night. Now they have a secure home. They are looking for jobs and wanting to become members of a productive society. The relative costs to the New South Wales government of providing affordable housing is nothing in comparison to the economic, social, and moral cost of homelessness. I am very encouraged by so many of you who are here tonight to speak up for our friends who are going through difficult times. Thank you.
Tonight, we've heard some powerful testimony, and it makes me sad to think about it. But it also makes me angry, because there are a lot of organizations out there working hard in the sector, but they're limited in what they can do without support from our government. It's time we demand change, and our time is now. Tonight, you will hear about 3 policy asks. We will ask the state government to commit to our asks 100 days after the election. Our ask is for 1, targets. In order to address the growing need of people experiencing homelessness and people stuck on the housing waiting list, the government needs to set targets for social and affordable housing growth. New South Wales is one of the few states without these targets, and currently, social housing is only meeting 44% of the actual need. How can our government begin to manage a problem like homelessness without taking measurements? Our government claims they want to reduce homelessness, yet there's no vision on how to achieve the numbers needed to shelter and support our most disadvantaged people. We are asking Prue Goward to set these targets for new, social, and affordable housing. But it's not just the hardest hit people that feel housing stress today. Our second ask to the minister will be to provide more affordable housing options. 2, shared equity. What's shared equity? Imagine a society where a family on an average income could potentially cut the cost of a mortgage in half. How? They could do this by buying a house in partnership with a community housing provider or state government under a scheme called shared equity. Shared equity is not some free ride. You still buy and own part of your home. But unlike renting, where every year you have to sign a new lease, under shared equity, it's your home. No one can tell you who or how many people can live there or what color you can paint the bedroom. We're talking full owner-occupier rights. Working renting families need it, community housing providers want it, every other state in Australia has it, as well as the US and UK, and it works, and we want it here in Sydney. The housing market has become like a ladder that's just too far out of reach for most people nowadays. What we want to do is add a rung to the bottom of the ladder to help people lift themselves out of housing insecurity, rent hikes, and evictions. And now for our third ask, you're about to hear a conversation that will sound all too familiar to you.
Hey, Mum.
Son, I can't believe you're paying $600 a week in rent. Why aren't you buying a house? You know, once you're in the market, you'll always have a place to live.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. If I bought a $600,000 house now, my mortgage would be less than what I'm paying in rent. But I need over 100,000 in savings for a deposit, and that's going to take me years to save.
Why is it so hard? You're earning a lot more than I was at your age.
Well, between stamp duty, investors, and the need to save a big deposit, it's become really hard. Not to mention that values have jumped from 3 times annual wage to 9 times annual wage.
Yeah, now that I think about it, my house is worth about 10 times more than what I paid for it.
Well, how nice for your generation. You know... Sorry. You know, it's pretty hard for us to afford to get into the housing market, but stamp duty makes that first cliff that much higher. The issue isn't actually the repayments, the problem is the deposit. I worked out that by myself it could take me 15 years to save it.
15 years?
Yeah. But, you know, a huge chunk of that is taken up in stamp duty. That's the tax you pay when you buy a house. It's about $25,000 on the average apartment.
So it's not just market forces at work?
No, the government could remove this stamp duty for first home buyers or make it an interest-free loan paid off over time.
What about the first home buyers grant? Oops, sorry. Does that mean you'd be able to buy a house?
No, not by itself. I'll still have to save for a long time, but it cuts off at least 4 years of waiting.
Well, what about the first home buyers grant?
Well, that'd be helpful, except that it can only be used on newly built places, and they're only a tiny portion of the market.
So it's a cycle that needs a circuit breaker, and stamp duty's the key. You could pay for it over time, but not all up front?
Got it. If we could just have no or low interest scheme like HEX for stamp duty, the cliff would be that much smaller. Once we're in the market, we could afford the repayments, and as our incomes increase, we could start repaying the stamp duty.
Well, that makes so much sense. Then the rental property you're in could be available to loosen up the rental market.
It's a win-win. I get a place to live in that I can call my own, and you don't have me moving back home till I'm 40.
That's right. Our third ask affects everyone sitting here tonight. Whether you're looking to buy your first home, know someone who is, or have children looking to buy, we're asking Barry O'Farrell to remove stamp duty for the purchase of existing dwellings for first homes. If the government won't remove the total cost of stamp duty, we ask that an interest-free, delayed payment system be introduced. In addition, the first homeowners grant be reinstated for the purchase of existing dwellings as it was less than 2 years ago. My name is Charles Rich, and I see firsthand, working at Settlement Services International, how the lack of affordable housing affects lives. Our ask could help so many people across Sydney, but it's the last ask that's important to me personally. My wife, Erin, and I dream of buying our own home, but can't possibly imagine being able to do so. Look, there's no silver bullet for a system that's become so flawed, but we can start a course for change by demanding targets, cutting mortgages through shared equity, and reducing the pressures caused by stamp duty. This is our campaign, and I'm the first to join the team. Will you come join me and fight for improving housing in Sydney?
As you've already seen by our membership tonight, bringing positive change to our city requires a broad-based coalition. So we're proud to introduce to you now some of Sydney's leading business people. Their organisations are not members of the Alliance, but we share a common goal, working for a more livable Sydney. First of our guests is Malcolm Gunning, from the President of the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales. Thank you for being our guest tonight.
That's a pleasure.
I thought I'd like to invite you to respond to 2 questions. One being your reaction to what you've seen here tonight, and the second being, given what you've just heard about our interest in housing, how you think we might work together in the future.
I think the numbers here are overwhelming. I think it represents a broad cross-section of the community, and which probably represents Sydney in general. As far as stamp duty is concerned, the Institute represents, well, first of all, the Real Estate Institute represents about 75% of the real estate agents in New South Wales. We're the people that broker deals from the $50 million house at Point Piper to the small cottage up at Broken Hill. So we're very aware of the great diversity in housing styles, affordability, and very conscious, obviously, about people requiring shelter. We're the ones who have to put people out the street sometimes. And we're the ones who are brokering deals with the foreign investors. So we really are across what's taking place in the broader community. We think that government should really review taxes on all levels of property. Property is the sitting duck for most governments, both council, federal and state. We think that paying stamp duty shouldn't be a decision that you make when you're going to sell a property. We think that most people consider a big hunk of tax you've got to pay when you sell and buy, and often people don't move. We think that supply and demand will even out the market. We think that if there was stamp duty was waived on all forms, we think GST should be increased to cover some of those taxes.
And so, more specifically, thoughts on how we might work together on some of these issues?
We already lobby state government consistently. We speak to the ministers really on a monthly basis. So we've got the ear of the government, so we'll be very pleased to work with you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I would like to acknowledge that we had invited PricewaterhouseCoopers as well, and Chris Roberts, who is their Director of the Economic and Policy team, who has been doing a bit of work with the Alliance. Unfortunately, he's been struck ill at the last minute, so unable to join us. And last, but by no means least, was going to be Lucy Hughes-Turnbull AO from the Committee of Sydney. Sorry, I know you don't look like Lucy. Lucy, who is the chairperson for the Committee for Sydney, an independent think tank and champion for the whole of Sydney, had been very keen to join us, had accepted our invitation. Unfortunately, she sent us a message this morning to say that she was not well, and her message was along the lines of, she's very sorry, I'm very sorry to do this. I was looking forward to being there. So sorry to be missing it. However, Tim Williams, who is the CEO of the Committee for Sydney, is standing in for Lucy. So please welcome Tim.
You'll just have to settle for me, I think. Can I just say, I've been in Sydney 3 years. This is the best meeting I have been to since I've arrived. Right? And it's possibly because I come from, I grew up in public housing in Wales for the first 18 years of my life. It's possibly that I come from a family of trade union activists. It's possibly that I come from a background that was very committed to the chapel and to cooperative development. But it's not just that, because the Committee for Sydney is proud to be working with an organisation like Sydney Alliance, but also with you. And I think the power that we have together of community and a business organisation that has 3 issues that are the same issues as the issues we've heard tonight. And let's just say them out loud. And remember, this is a business-led organisation saying there needs to be a public transport revolution in this city. In this city, which is going to be a city of 6 million by 2050, and is going to be an incredibly diverse community, we need to remember that housing is not just an investment vehicle, it's shelter for all. And the third thing we say, as a business-led organisation that has also got affordable housing providers in it and is a genuine attempt at a coalition, is that a city that provides opportunities for all is the city that we wish to live in, a city that is not divided east and west, but actually is united. And I think today is an example of the unity of spirit that we will need to bring together between the business community and the community more broadly that will, I think, shape the political discussion in a year's time. So this is a very powerful coalition that we're building. And just to conclude on the Alliance itself, the reason we wanted to work with the Alliance and with you is because there's an interesting phrase, the interesting issue. Sometimes the word community sums up the word no, right? And we've got to get out of that. And I think that where the Sydney Alliance is leading is that you guys are saying yes. You've got some solutions to the problems of our city, not just complaining about things, you have answers. We want to work with people like that. We can help.
you very much to Tim and Patricia and Malcolm. We look forward to building a better Sydney together.
We've heard what some of Sydney's leading businesses and organisations are doing for a better Sydney and how they are prepared to work with us. Now is the time for our commitment to action. There are 3 commitments that we are calling you to make tonight. These are involvement in running table talks, participating in district assemblies, and signing up for the campaign action teams for Working Start, transport and affordable housing. You may not have heard of table talks but not sure what they are. Here's a video to show what happens in a table talk.
My name is Julie Camacho. I wanted to be a table host because I know how magical doing some of these table talks can be sometimes. I want to hear more about your personal stories because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to humanize these issues. The way that these table talks work is you get someone to share and open their house and share stories about issues that they feel very passionate about. Often at these table talks, you will hear a series of stories about things that are taking place in a community. So today is all about housing, and I want to make sure that people feel comfortable to find the core of these problems and find ways where we can solve them together.
The ability to be able to say, okay, well, I still want to live here is a challenge for all of us.
Throwing our money down the drain for the rest of our life. We want to start a family soon.
Particularly for new migrants to come to here. They don't have any family here.
And that I was at the end of my rope then. I didn't, because I was losing, but I couldn't work anymore.
I think table talks are absolutely essential for us building solidarity amongst one another and to really identify stories that otherwise would never come up to surface.
Some of the stories made me really angry. Some stories made me want to cry. And then there was a lot of people around the table that had the exact same experience as me.
I've never been to a house meeting before, so in the end I think it felt like a safe place to build connections with people who are as passionate about housing and housing affordability as we are.
I found it quite enriching actually.
It was a good conversation actually.
I'm really happy to come to this meeting and share my story with you.
After the meeting, I'm left with a lot of hope, a lot of inspiration.
Absolutely anyone has the ability to organize one of these table talks, and that's the magic of it. Society tells us, go home, watch TV, and that's what you should be doing. But we're trying to say, go and meet with people, talk to people. It's not terrifying, it's the most fun thing you can do. It's just about sharing stories. It just requires you being keen to invite your neighbors around, your friends around, to really listen to one another.
Good evening, Sydney Alliance. I said, good evening, Sydney Alliance. That's better. My name is Julie Camacho. I'm here from United Voice. As you just observed, I was the host of a table talk. Table talks are easy. They are the practical way to listen to one another and create a vision for what we want to see changed. All you need to do is choose your day. Identify between 10 to 20 people. This can be friends, workmates, neighbors, enemies, you name it. People that are directly affected by the issues that we talked about tonight: housing, job access, and transport. Invite them to your home, your church, a cafe, anywhere. Get everyone to bring some food along for an hour of sharing and listening about any of the issues. Now the choice is yours. Table talks are the way in which we build momentum towards action. We have the ability to find and demand our own solutions. Tonight, you have the power to act and make a difference. So let me ask you, if you have been inspired by anything of what you have heard tonight, will you commit to do your own table talk? If so, please take a minute to have a look at a piece of sheet that you have in your chairs on how to make a table talk. And start considering making your own table talk. It's so easy, and we can be part of the difference.
And don't tell me you're not inspired. I'm Asha Ramzan, Executive Officer of the Inner Southwest Community Development Organisation. If you're like me, you're probably wondering, how do we win on these issues? Well, in order to win, we will need to campaign. And for that, we need leaders like you to sign up and be part of the campaign action teams. Our campaign will be Sydney-wide. We will hold district assemblies across Sydney between now and the state election in March 2015. These assemblies will bring together all the table talks from each district, and local members of parliament will be asked to support our agenda. That is why I'm excited. I'm excited to tell you that the Sutherland St George district will be holding the first assembly. The first district assembly of the election campaign will be held in the Sutherland St George district. In September this year, and we will be inviting the Premier. And if he doesn't come to Sutherland and St George,
maybe he'll come to an assembly on the North Shore. And if not there, we'll invite him to Western Sydney in November.
District assemblies are a powerful way to bring people together and make our power visible. They're only as powerful as the number of committed people who will attend, though, and that's why we are placing so much emphasis on table talks. You heard what Julie had to say about the importance of table talks. And so tonight we're very excited to announce that several organisations have already set their targets for their table talks during the election period. So here is the roll call of those organisations and targets. If your organisation is one of these, please stand as they are called.
Good Beginnings Australia 3.
Woo!
Hi, I'm Alex Classens. I'm with the Rail, Tram and Bus Union, and we pledge to do at least 3 table talks.
My name is Alison Quee, and I'm from Uni New South Wales, and we commit to 4.
I'm Nathan, representing Western Sydney Community Forum. We're going to have a run at 11 table talks.
Hi, my name is Jaggy Choi from Metro Migrant Resource Centre. We pledge 8 table talks.
Hi, I'm Jackie Myers from RPA. I'm a midwife and part of the New South Wales Nurses and Midwives Association, and we pledge 12 table talks.
Hi, I'm Yato Amarasinghe from Settlement Services International, and we have pledged to host 12 table talks.
I'm not from United Boys. We are doing 15 table talks.
Hi, my name is PJ from the Diocese of Broken Bay, and we commit to doing 15 table talks.
Hi, I'm Danny Bromble, and I'm from the Cancer Council New South Wales, and we commit to 15 table talks.
I am Mary Shalhoub from Arab Council Australia, and we are committed to 25 table talks.
My name is the Reverend Andrew Palmer, representing the Baptist churches in New South Wales and the ACT, and we commit to 30 table talks.
Hi, I'm Patrice Moriarty from the Catholic Diocese of Parramatta, and we commit to 30 table talks.
G'day, I'm Jake from Youth Action, and we're committed to 45 table talks.
And I'm Neil Reeds from the Uniting Church in Australia, Congregations, Presbyteries, Community Services and Synod, and we commit to 130 table talks.
Hi, my name's Jessica Marcellinus, and I'm from the Catholic Archdiocese of Sydney. Today, we commit to 165 table talks!
Wow, okay. I had a little bit of trouble with my maths keeping up with that, but I'm pretty sure we've got well over 400 as a target there. But wait, before we get too excited, we need to think about how we're going to make it happen.
We need to make all these table talks that have been targeted real. We are the Alliance. So let's make this election period count. Now is our turn to commit to running a table talk. Each of you has the phone number of someone from your organisation. Text that number with your name and your suburb so that you will host a table talk. Your organisational guide will work with you to make your table talk a reality. So let's start texting our commitment to running a table talk. Do that now. In the Alliance, we have a culture of accountability. Accountability for time and for accountability for every decision that we make. Sometimes this feels a bit awkward, but we ask people to be honest and brave enough to make a commitment to their fellow Alliance partners. So let us see now how many table talks we know will actually happen because of your commitment tonight. If you are going to host a table talk, please stand so we can get a tally. And please stand if you texted that you were going to host a table talk. Please do that now. Can we have the house lights on so Anita and I can see? How fantastic is that? We are well on our way to having table talks across this city, feeding into district assemblies, marshalling our campaign for the election to come. Members of the Sydney Alliance, friends of the Alliance, special guests and visitors, our city has begun to change tonight. The pendulum is swinging not only toward a more livable city, but to a more just and sustainable one. Social theorist Jürgen Habermas said for democracy to survive, we need citizens to participate, not only at the ballot box, but also in continuous engagement with each other and business and government. Have we participated tonight? Harvard economist Amartya Sen, in his recent book, The Idea of Justice, wrote that justice can only prevail in a society if all the voices of that society are respectfully heard, and especially the voices of the least powerful. Have we heard those voices tonight? Christine Lagarde, President of the International Monetary Fund, asserts that for growth and development to be sustainable, we must reduce inequality. Tonight we have enacted participatory democracy. We have listened to the breadth of voices of our city. Now we go from this place firm in our resolve to build bridges between citizens, business and government. We have made our commitments. Are we going to act? With my co-chair, Anita, we declare our Assembly closed and our year of action to the March 2015 state election open. Travel safely, follow the drums, and good night.